Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire,
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
Back on the Broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. On this episode, we'll be talking about the witch capital of the USA, Salem, Massachusetts. Salem has been a draw for witches around the world since 1977, when Governor Michael Dukakis decreed Laurie Cabot Salem's official witch, and the crowds have grown every year since. How did the city become such a lodestone for witches? Is it just a tourist trap? Why are witches celebrating a city that is famous for killing people who were not witches? I'm Layla, and I'm biased because the pilgrimage I made to Salem in 1992 was a turning point in my witchy life.
And I'm Chelle, and I'm equally biased because I am currently a resident of Salem.
Woohoo! Which we love because it gives me an excuse to go there all the freaking time.
Right? And there's beaches here, that's all I'm saying.
And there's a lot of history there, which is another great reason to go to Salem.
Speaking of history, I would like to start off by saying we all know Salem as the witch capital of the USA. I get it, I'm here, but lest we not forget, Salem, Massachusetts is home to the National Guard. It is the birthplace of the National Guard.
It is. There is a lot of history there other than witches. There's a lot of maritime history. There's a lot of history. It's one of the oldest popularized. Some of those buildings are freaking old. And there's the Hawthorne Museum. There's a lot there. But what we're going to focus on is the witchy history. Why is a place that killed non-witches, why is it such a lodestone? Why is it such a draw to witches today?
Yeah, why is it Mecca?
Are we glorifying the death of these not witch women and men? Is it just a Disney-fied, overly tourist trap now? Like, what is it? What do we feel about this?
I would like to kind of start with all the answers to that depend on what do you think you are going to experience here? What is your intention? Are you coming to connect with some ancient witchcraft ways, or are you coming for the best witchy shopping experience of your life?
So the person I think we have to blame, actually, for the reason why it's called the witch capital is Laurie Cabot. It's all Laurie Cabot's fault. It was not known as a witchy tourist trap or a witchy destination before Laurie Cabot moved there back in the early 70s. And I heard a legend about how she became known.
Let's hear it. I'll tell you if it jives with the local legends.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So what I heard came from Enchanted Living magazine, and they did an interview with Laurie Cabot. Back in the 70s, Laurie Cabot was living there. She had a little shop, and she was definitely witchy and out, but she kept kind of a low profile. She wasn't very well known. But her familiar, her cat, black cat named Molly Boo, climbed up a tree outside her house and refused to come down. And Laurie wanted some help to get her beautiful little feline familiar out of the tree, and no one would help her. And so finally she called the local newspaper and said, quote, "I'm a witch. That's my familiar. I want my cat out of the tree right now." So the person who answered the phone was an editor. And not only did they dispatch fire trucks to her house to help her get her cat down, he also went out and interviewed her. And supposedly he never answers the phone. And the night that she called, he just kind of felt a reason. He just kind of felt like he should answer the phone that night. And so he did.
I feel like if Laurie Cabot was calling my phone, I'd be compelled to answer it. That's all I'm saying.
I have a feeling this call is important, and I never answer the phone. So
right.
For Laurie, I would answer.
Yeah, I would totally be answering that. Yeah.
So what's the local legend say?
You know, funnily enough, what I've heard out and about, word on the street, is almost the same exact story, kind of minus the cat, just that she called up the news one day and declared herself, and that they decided to come and do a story. I didn't hear the cat piece, but that doesn't mean anything other than I didn't hear that.
In 1977, the then governor, Michael Dukakis, called her Salem's official witch. And she was even in the National Geographic in 1979, along with her coven. And in 1986, she established the Witches League for public awareness in order to counter stereotypical images and negative witch imagery in media.
And one thing that they do talk about locally is that for as long as she has had the shop and been in town, she has been very outspoken and very forward about her spiritual beliefs. And that kind of contributed to her being declared the official witch. Remember back in the day, you and I were loud and proud. She was just loud and proud when we were in diapers. That's all. Back when people weren't so loud and proud, she was.
Well, you have often said that her book, The Power of the Witch, was your first introduction to witchcraft.
Absolutely.
And it was a lot of people's. Her books were some of the few that you could find that were openly witchy on bookshelves back then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she was the gateway drug, man. Laurie
She
Cabot was the
was.
gateway drug.
So, starting in the 80s, the tourism really did ramp up. They were doing the Halloween ball. They had the Samhain celebration that they would do on the square.
They actually started what they now call haunted happenings, which is a month-long, I'd call it a party, fiesta, shit show, dumpster fire, grand old good time. But haunted happenings kind of came about in the mid 80s and has just grown into this like the Mardi Gras of October.
October is crawling with people, and every year there are thousands and thousands more, which is wonderful for the city because it does bring in a lot of money and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, really try to park for work on a random October Tuesday because it's brutal. It's
That's
brutal.
right. It is brutal on the locals. I know people have to call in extra people to work. People work overtime. It is very, very hard on the locals, even though it does bring in the dollars.
But let me tell you, the things I see, the people I see, and I've got to say, all of what we're talking about aside, to sit and look out my work window and just on the daily in October see thousands and thousands and thousands of pagans, witches, heathens, however they identify, just kind of they're doing their thing and it's great. It's great. It really is.
That is why I completely 100% agree with it being a meeting point, it being a place for witches, pagans, heathens. There's the vampire shop,
Yeah.
any type of paganism. You will be accepted. Salem proper is a very accepting place now, which is very different than its history.
Right.
So by going there, we are reclaiming this space. We fully understand that those people were not witches. They were persecuted because they were different, because they had something that the powers that be needed or wanted. And that's fucked up. That's wrong.
So Salem basically flipped the script and made it the exact opposite, the exact opposite.
I love that so much because honestly, those Christian zealots from back then have got to be rolling in their graves. Cotton Mather has got to be flipping out that witches are out and proud and walking around.
And taking pictures of his grave too.
That's right, taking pictures. We respect the fact that these people were not witches and that they were persecuted, and we relate to that because we too are persecuted, especially today. I like how you said flip the script because that feels so good to me to be there. Nowhere else in the United States is there such a concentration of witches who live there and who
Right.
work there and who provide services and just be there.
Just doing our due, man. Just doing our due. Like we all got a day job currently, and here you can just be you and it's okay. And not everybody has that freedom.
Right. And it's celebrated there. And it's a way of reclaiming that space. It's a way of reclaiming our witchiness, I guess, and saying that it's not okay to oppress other people using your religion or because they're different. That's not good. And we won't allow that anymore.
But, kind of circling back to the historical factors, I love old creepy places, and boy, does Salem have them. Where else are you going to go in America where you're going to find not only cemeteries, but what is it, four or five actual buildings from 1626. Like, where else? Where else?
Right.
And they're just cool to look at and walk through and just kind of take it all in. You have stepped where people have stepped for hundreds of years. You walked up that same stairwell to that bedroom that someone else did 300 years ago. There's something awesome about that.
You can go to the House of the Seven Gables.
Yep. Yep. Or the witch house.
You can go to the Peabody Essex Museum. You can go to these places that are so old and have so much history there. And it's just amazing. It's amazing what they have done. And the witchcraft tourism has helped to build places like Proctor's Ledge and to build some of these memorial sites as well.
But also, if you're a pop culture fan, obviously there's the Hocus Pocus filming sites, there's the Hubie Halloween filming sites, and those are cool in their own right and for different reasons. So, there's just a lot here history-wise. And again, I remember when we went to the House of Seven Gables together, and I was so fascinated because remember we saw that brick of tea that was like 300 years old. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
wonder if that still tastes good. Obviously not. It's 300 years old. But like to see a compacted brick of tea from 300 years ago, to me, I find that fascinating. Other people might think I'm a weirdo, but I was all about that.
Well, you're definitely a weirdo, but one of my favorite things was also one of my favorite things was in that same house when we were on the tour and we were up in the attic and the tour guide had us look down at the floor at all the little indentations that were in the floor all over the
Yep.
place. And those were actually from tours from like the early 1900s
Yeah.
from ladies' shoes because
Yeah.
all the ladies wore high-heeled shoes and it damaged the floors. What an interesting, I mean, that's still historical to me. I mean, that was over 100 years ago that they were
Right.
made, and the house was being toured even then. The place is just filled with these neat little details, these beautiful little places. And so going there and being your witchy self and being able to go to the Samhain ritual, which for me was the first time I ever met other witches, it's just special in so many different ways.
Now, as with all good things, there can be a flip side, and in my opinion, my personal opinion, to me, the flip side a little bit is some of the commercialization, but that is what happens when you are at a tourist location. I
Yeah.
understand that, you know, Myrtle Beach, Salem, Massachusetts, touristy. But aside from that, you will not get a better pagan or witchcraft or heathen type shopping experience in all of your bloody life in
How many
person.
cities can you walk from one pagan shop to another, let alone 30?
Oh, there's got to be more than 30.
On Essex Street and just off of Essex Street, there are some amazing, amazing shops. One of my favorites, Hive and Forge, is just off of it. You will find local, handmade, gorgeous, gorgeous stuff there. I love
Oh,
that
like I can't
place.
even explain the
It's
gorgeousness.
just amazing.
In whatever your taste or flavor, it's here. It's in a store. There's a store for it. Like you were saying, you can go to the vampire store and
Right.
there's a store that's just rocks and gemstones and crystals.
And there are readers and there are classes. And yes, you have to pay for them.
Yes,
And let's face it, if it was free, these people would be overrun with hundreds, if not thousands of people wanting their time. And they have to be compensated for that energy somehow. So I get it. But just be cautious if you are paying for any classes or anything. A fee is fine. If it feels like extortion, it probably is.
exactly. Exactly. If it feels icky, it's probably icky.
That's right. But a fee is to be expected, especially someplace that has that many people.
But there's a lot of great things here. You were talking about, your favorite store. I got to
Hmm.
give a shout out to Pentagram. I love my people at Pentagram, and they also have great readers, great mediums there.
Hmm.
But food, let me tell you, there's some good food in this
Oh,
town.
yeah.
everybody on our Facebook page that says they're coming to Salem, they're like, "Oh, Shell, where should I eat?" Casa Tequila, man. I had steak nachos today after work. Like there is all kinds of food, all
Where did
different.
we have that divine lobster roll?
I don't even remember because you can get them everywhere.
You can get them everywhere. They're so good.
But they're delightful. I will say this. Here is my little caveat to the food thing. The food here is fabulous, but either eat indoors or if you come in the summer, guard your food with your life. These seagulls are no joke. Like no joke. They will come down and take the food out of your hand. They have no fear. They're no fear. Be warned of the seagulls. But I do want to say that there are great museums here as well that are worth checking out. And you and I have mentioned in the past, and I again want to shout these guys out, the Witchboard Museum.
Oh, an
Fabulous place.
absolute fabulous. Have to go every time. It's amazing.
They rotate their displays. So, you go a couple different times, you're going to see different boards, but like there's a pirate museum, there's a witchcraft
I got
museum.
to interrupt. I'm so sorry because I just heard that the Witchboard Museum had some ghost hunters or someone come through, and I
They
think
did.
have they been hearing voices? Have there been EVPs, ghostly voices been heard in there?
So I heard this, and you want to know what I thought of? So remember when we went there and he was telling us about that most haunted Ouija board? I think it was like a Stranger
Yes.
Things board.
Mhm.
My first thought was it was that damn board going nuts. So
Yeah, John Kozik is the owner proprietor of the Witchboard Museum, and he's amazing. He will talk your ear off, and it's fabulous. So much information.
I have never known someone more knowledgeable about witch boards, Ouija boards, etc., than this guy.
He told us about the one board that was sent in because people will send them haunted boards. By the way, if you have any haunted Ouija boards you want to send it to us. We'll take care of it. P.O. Box 106, Salem, Massachusetts. What's the zip code?
Oh, 1970.
Haunted cabinets, haunted teacups, whatever you got, send it our
We
way.
got you.
We got you. But yeah, people send him haunted things, and this one was spooky. And Shell, you felt a really bad vibe coming off of it, right?
I did. And, I actually was like, what is this creepy one behind glass? And he's like, well, let me tell you, it's the worst one here.
And I think we did catch a couple EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, when we recorded our conversation with John, but they were very garbled. I don't think they said, from what I understand, they heard "get out" at the museum. I think it even says it right on the, yeah, it does. I see it on their website. So I'll have to go back and listen to ours and see if any of them sound like "get out." But I wasn't 100% sure if it was just background noise, but it was when we were alone in the museum, so I'm pretty sure they were EVPs. We'll see.
But when I heard that recent story about that, all I could think of was that Stranger Things board. I'm like, it had to be that, man. It had to be
Yeah.
that creepy board behind the glass.
And he changes up the displays regularly, so he's always putting up creepy stuff. So definitely check that out. But yeah, so many good places to go. One of the problems that people have with going, one of the criticisms that I have heard is that it's disrespectful to the people that were killed because for some reason there's the idea that all of us witches that go think that the people that were killed as witches in Salem were actual witches. And I want to dispel that right now. I don't know anyone who thinks that the people that were killed in Salem were actually witches.
Yeah, neither do I. I think everybody knows the truth.
Yeah, so I think that's just a little bit of an odd criticism. And from what I've seen, for the most part, people are extremely respectful of the cemeteries. The what's that one memorial right by the cemetery with the ledges where the people put offerings?
The Witch Memorial.
Yeah, the witch memorial right there by the cemetery is gorgeous and extremely moving, and people are always putting offerings there to these people because we understand they died because of persecution, because of misunderstanding, because of bigotry and hatred, and not because of witchcraft.
A couple things about those 2 points I want to add in. I have never in all my life, and I was big on exploring genealogy and going through cemeteries all through New York State for years. So I've been to a cemetery or two. And
Hmm.
I've got to say, I have never seen people be more respectful than I have here. And that's saying a lot considering there's sometimes over 1.5 million people here in just the month of October. But I have never seen such respect No garbage, no vandalism, like that kind of thing. No walking off the path where it says don't walk off the path. Like people are super respectful. And as far as the witch memorial that's right next to the Charter Street Cemetery, I don't think in the 5 years that I've lived here that I've ever once been through there where there wasn't fresh flowers on every single memorial for every single person that was accused of witchcraft. I don't know who does it. I don't know if it's the city. I don't know if it's people. I don't know if it's randos, but not once in 5 years has there not been fresh flowers every day on those memorials.
The Historical Society and the different groups in Salem,
People aren't that respectful to their families' graves, for God's sakes.
they are very much respecting the history of this place and the history of the people that were persecuted there. And I think that's very important to remember is that that's what witches do is we accept people, we draw them in, we understand persecution and we get it.
And to talk about your good buddy there, Giles Corey, that you love so much.
I do. He was an asshole, but I really like his story. I respect that not going to speak in order to damn the man because screw you, you can't have my stuff. I'm keeping my mouth shut. I very much respect that.
He invented fuck the man.
Right? Seriously.
So the one thing that I kind of I find respectful yet get a kick out of with his story is, as you are aware, there's 4 or 5 sites around town where they say that he
It could have
was
happened. Yeah.
it could have happened.
He was pressed to death, in case any of our listeners aren't sure. Giles Corey was pressed to death. He was accused of witchcraft. He refused to enter a plea so that they couldn't try him. And in order to get him to talk, they laid him on a stone and laid progressively more and more stones on top of him in order to induce him to talk. He wouldn't do it. All he said was more weight, supposedly, and then he died. So, sorry.
But there's several places around town where they claim this happened. Well, you can only stone a guy in one location, for God's sakes. They weren't moving him on the daily. There happens to be a plaque about this right outside of my work. And I laugh because tourists will actually go to all of these sites and pay tribute to them. And you know why? Because at one of those sites is where it really happened, and they're going to figure out, it might not have been this one, but in case it was, I want to pay my respects to this guy. It's more about showing respect and honoring what these people went through because yes, they were not witches, but they went through a hell of a lot of bullshit for people like us who are.
And we do. People do. And I think that's what the people who are traveling to Salem identify with. They understand persecution. They understand being different and on the fringes of society and having that used against them.
So I do actually like the fact that you will see some of these people going around from site to site because it's almost
Yeah,
like, well, one of them's got to be the right place, And I like that it's more about paying the respect than picking a spot. You know what I mean? We
I
don't know. This was
do.
300 years ago. I don't know where this shit could have happened 4 blocks away from where they say it did. How do I know? You know what I mean?
That's right. And the memorial next to the old Burying Point Cemetery is relatively recent and it's
Yep.
beautiful and very, very meaningful. Another recent thing is they have recently discovered within, what was it, 10 years ago or so?
Maybe 15. Yeah.
15 years ago
Proctor's
now?
Ledge.
Proctor's Ledge. They've
Yep.
discovered the actual location where the hangings took place, and there is
Yep.
a very moving memorial there. But that just happened 15 years ago.
Right.
It's possible at some point they will discover where the jail actually was or where Giles Corey was actually pressed to death. And these sites have meaning, and they are being very respectfully and beautifully honored there.
Now we're talking about sites that have meaning. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about the biggest bullcrappity story to come out of Salem.
Oh, what's the biggest bullcrappity story?
There was no witch dungeon. There was no dungeon. I understand there's one there today and you can go tour it, but no,
Was there a jail?
no.
Were they held in a jail?
Well, they were held in a jail, but not in a dungeon. The witch dungeon is a tourist trap, friends. Just
It's
saying.
fun. It's interesting.
It
Definitely
is
a tourist trap.
absolutely, absolutely, but it's not historic.
There you go.
I had to say it. I couldn't help myself.
I don't blame you one bit. Now, it is almost spring. Ostara is coming up, and this is Chelle's and my favorite time to go to Salem. Go in the late spring, go in early autumn. It is beautiful, it is less crowded, and it is just a stunning, amazing historical city to walk around in.
Like, I get that people want to come here in October. Like, I get it.
And you should do it once.
Like, yeah. And, it's like Rocky Horror. You got to do it once, man.
There you go.
Or
Or
many
many times
times.
if you're us.
But, first of all, when I say there's over 1.5 million people who descend on this city in a month, like, that ain't no joke. We don't have the parking for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think there's like 66 parking spots downtown, so you're not getting one of them. You're just not.
Yeah.
And people need them for work.
And I need that for work. It's cold. If you do not think for one hot second that October in New England has any sense of warmth, you're crazy. I still try to convince myself of that, and I freeze every year. But like, it's not warm here. Sometimes it snows here in October. Spring is beautiful. You got the breeze, the ocean. You can take the ferry into Boston, the beach. Come in the spring, people. Come in the summer. I feel like you have a better time seeing the sights, visiting the memorials, going to the museums, checking out the restaurants. Just all of it is just more comfortable when you're not wearing 85 layers and a snowsuit.
It is a good time to wear your cloak, though.
That's the other thing. You have not lived until you have walked down Main Street in Salem in your cloak and no one even looks at you weird.
I know, it's so great. You
Because
can
that
wear your
doesn't
witch
happen in New York.
vest.
In New York, they look at you weird. But here, yeah, no, it's like a Tuesday. I love
There
it.
you go. It's perfect. All right, so we've talked about amazing Salem, and I do think you should go because when I went the very first time was back in the 90s, and I went for Samhain. I ended up sleeping in a van in the parking garage because I was dirt fucking poor, but I met so many witches, people that I still know today. And they were some of the first people I had ever met that actually practiced witchcraft and had been in covens. And it was just a beautiful, amazing experience.
You reminded me of a warning that I must give any potential visitor of Salem. And I encountered this issue my first visit to Salem.
What's that?
Their parking is no joke here. Like, we talk about parking spots. I'm talking about, like, if you are 4 seconds over on your meter, expect a $25 ticket. These people, I feel like they have like night vision on these meters. And the minute your meter is up, you are getting ticketed. You need to be cognizant of where you park, how long you're allowed to park there. Make sure you pay for it because parking, they are very strict and yeah, it can be costly.
This parking notification has been brought to you by Shell from Back on the Broomstick. Please park your brooms responsibly when visiting Salem in October. Thank you.
I should get a kickback from the city of Salem for that, damn it.
Right? The other thing I wanted to talk about was Salem is a Mecca. Salem is a lodestone. It's a draw for witches and pagans because it's a place where we can be free. It's a place where we can say, screw you to the man and to the people who would persecute us, and we can be out and proud and amongst our people. That's not possible in a lot of places, and it's getting worse.
It's actually getting, I feel, I actually read something today and I honestly felt like I was like time warped back into like 1990.
What'd you read?
There is a place, I want to say it was South Carolina, that
I might know which one you're talking about. February 21st in the Market on the Mill in Pickens, South Carolina. It is a venue that has, it's like one of those small shop things. It's open on the weekends or whatever, and different people will come in. And so you've seen those like little markets, right?
yes.
This is one of those. Well, apparently, one of the vendors is a Wiccan and was selling pagan related, witchcraft related items. And they were targeted by the local Stillwater Christian Fellowship. They put up YouTube videos. They've harassed the owner.
But here's another piece that I was reading about today, and this kind of pissed me off. I'm a Gemini, so, I could flip on a dime, but this really got me going. You know how we're all on the old book, the old Facebook. Apparently, some of these righteous folk are getting into, under false pretenses, getting into some of the local pagan Facebook groups for that area, finding out you know how we are, hey, you want to get together at this coffee shop or let's have a ritual here or there. They're finding out about local events and then they are going and harassing these people. Now, this was where I really kind of went over the edge. They are shouting, Exodus, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Like, are you implying violence? What are your intentions by saying that? Where's this going? This is concerning.
It
Like, this
is.
is concerning because these people are whack jobs. I don't go around preaching my shit and shoving it down their throat. Why are they trying to do that to me?
Exactly.
Seriously.
We reported back in December on a group,
They wouldn't allow them to be in
the
the parade.
parade. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So that was Donna Donovan. So that was the Parkersburg Christmas Parade in Parkersburg, West Virginia. They are still fighting with the city over that. The city would not allow the Appalachian Pagan Ministry to participate by having a float in the city Christmas parade, the city holiday parade, because they didn't want their kind of people there.
Then don't come. I don't like church, so I don't go.
This parade was open to everyone. It was open to all faiths, and they told the pagans that they could not have their previously approved float because they didn't like their kind of people.
All faiths but you.
Exactly. And we also talked about the down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Tulsa City Council. They have an opening prayer, and it's supposed to be, again, all faiths. But they had a pagan minister come in, and she gave a prayer to Medusa. And the
All of a
governor,
sudden, it's a problem.
now it's a problem. He's calling Satanism, saying Satanism's going to have a foothold. Now they've actually done away with the prayer. They won't do a prayer now. They just have a moment of silence after that.
Now, also, I'm sure some of you folks read The Wild Hunt. It's like a pagan news thing. Here's the title of the article. West Virginia seeks constitutional amendment to codify the Bible as the utmost authority for human moral behavior. Like
What the
what?
absolute
Like
oh,
what? Like
I
what?
I cannot even. I cannot even. There are countries where being a witch is punishable by death. I know just recently in South Africa, and also in February, that there's men in Zambia that are being held right now on charges of practicing witchcraft because they think that they were trying to do charms and hexes against the president. So I don't know if this, again, I don't know if this is a Salem witchcraft and if these men are actually witches or not, or if this is some type of persecution, but it's still persecution from Christians saying that witches are doing something bad.
So basically, I think what I'm gathering here so far in talking about Salem and talking about current events, what I'm gathering, correct me if I'm wrong, is that after 346 years, not a damn thing's changed.
Pretty much,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was getting this.
yeah, we are going backwards in so many ways and it's getting worse. The zealots are getting worse and they're pretty violent. Like you said, with the claims of thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, which isn't even the correct quote. Quote your Bible
Like
correctly.
if I said that to you, that'd be considered a physical threat. Like, does that mean that's a physical threat to me?
I think it is a threat. I think that's ridiculous. It's based on ignorance, it's based on fear. And I think that's why we need places like Salem, Massachusetts more than ever, because this is a bastion where people can gather, where people can talk, where they can speak their truth, where they can combat some of these misconceptions, some of these falsehoods.
But here's where I get confused on all of this. There's been a lot of talk recently, how they do all these like census things and polling of people things. And they're finding that more and more Americans have left Christianity and spiritual and or non-religious people are rising. So if there's more spiritual, pagan, non-religious folk and less Christians, what the hell is happening? I don't get it.
Sometimes it's a last gasp. I don't know. They still outnumber us. They do. And around the world, they are still very large in number and in power, in positions of power. I mean, in Scotland, again, just recently, there was an event at the Glasgow Cathedral to mark the city's 850th anniversary.
Yep.
And the Scottish Pagan Federation and the Humanist Society of Scotland were both denied from participating after the Church of Scotland and the Catholic Church complained.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
So I read an article from the Humanist Society Scotland, and they said that in Scotland, the Humanist Society conducts more weddings than all other faith groups combined. And paganism is the fourth largest religion in Scotland. And yet the Catholics and the Christians denied them from helping to celebrate Glasgow's anniversary.
I'm dumbfounded. That's all I can say. Like, I'm dumbfounded.
It's got to be because it is the fastest growing religion, because we are growing so quickly
Are we just
and they're
scaring them that
afraid.
much? Yeah,
Yes, because our religion is about thought and you have to put in the work and the effort, and it's about working together and it's about accepting people for who they are. And theirs is not.
you mean no double standard? How dare you?
So I think right now it's difficult. It's very difficult. People, there was a woman in California, I just lost the article. Future Layla maybe will pop in with the information, but a woman in California lost her job because they said she was a witch. And this was just within the last 6 months. It's happening and it's scary. And there are people in this country who are worried because they fall into more than one category. It's not just witches that are worried.
Right. That's our focus of this conversation, but we are definitely not the only ones.
Right, right. And we need to take care of each other. And so we're going to keep shouting out these news articles and we will keep up on them. You know, maybe we'll put something up on our website. We'll keep track of this and we'll try to reach out to these people.
But this is another reason why I think that everybody should come here at least once, because if for no other reason, you can walk around in your cloak and you can walk around in your witchy finest and that's okay. And it might not be okay where you are, but it's
Right.
okay here.
You can wear your jewelry. You can
Yep.
say you're a witch. You can wear
Yep.
your pointy hat of whatever kind you like
Right.
and be accepted. It is such an accepting place, no matter what you are, no matter who you are, no matter how you are. And we need that.
Yeah, I was just going to say it sounds like those are becoming fewer and far between.
Yeah, especially when things are in turmoil, we need each other and we need to stick together.
So if no other reason, I complain about parking. I sometimes complain about the commercialism and the tourism, but you will not find camaraderie like you find here anywhere else.
Yeah,
And there's something to be said for that. And that right there is worth a trip here.
100%. And it is full of tourism, and there are no parking spots, and it's hard to get around sometimes, but it is also very, very magical and so beautiful and so much history, so much to learn there. It's just, you should go.
And steak nachos and pineapple coconut margaritas.
And really good lobster rolls everywhere.
Watch for seagulls. I have to say, we're talking about that, but I need to mention I have recently found a new store.
Okay, tell us about this new store before we wrap up. I love new places to shop.
Now, I happen to sometimes on occasion work in our neighboring city, which is Lynn, Massachusetts. Beautiful beach there. I came across a store, and who knew? You thought all the witchy stores around here were in Salem. Not the case. So I'm over in Lynn the other day, and I come across this store called Ravenstone.
Mm,
Shout out to these people. Holy mackerel. The stones, the gems, and then of course, me, the tarot decks.
yeah.
But like I think that sometimes some of these places, and then there's shops in Beverly, Pentagram, like I said in Salem, my favorite store. They have a sister shop in Beverly called the Zodiac Tea Room. They do tea leaf readings and such there. I think sometimes when people come to Salem, they forget that there is some witchy experiences to have in some of the surrounding towns and
Hmm.
cities. So definitely come to Salem, enjoy it for what it is, but don't forget that there's hidden gems all around that are outside of the Salem city limits, such as Ravenstone and the Zodiac Tea Room,
You know, I have not been to Ravenstone yet, but after you got that gorgeous ring
which I
and
love.
and the tarot deck, because you saw the one card I had and fell in love with that deck, so you got that deck.
You knew I was getting a tarot deck there regardless,
Oh
okay?
yeah, absolutely. You can't pass one of these stores without getting a deck. But I looked at them online and I cannot wait to go there. Now they're not a sponsor or anything. We just love them. Their jewelry blew me away. I cannot wait to go pick out a piece. It looks so cool.
I actually got this ring. All their rings have a name.
I know. How cute is it? I want the Nona ring so bad.
I got the ring that was called Joy. It is a round amethyst, and I am so in love with this thing. I could just, I went for the tarot deck. You know how it's like going to the grocery store. You go for one thing, you come out with a bunch. So I went for the tarot deck and I saw this ring and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not leaving without that. And
Hmm.
the one thing I loved was that the gentleman there, his name is Eric, he basically told me everything I could possibly want to know about this particular stone and a couple of stones I asked about. He had just returned from the Tucson Gem Show and was like showing me all, like they're very knowledgeable, I guess is my point. They don't just sell items. They don't just sell decks. They don't just sell books. They don't just sell their own teas, because I forgot to tell you they have tea too.
I cannot
But
wait to go.
they're very knowledgeable. It's not just a retail store. You go in, you're going to learn something there while you're there too. You know what
I
I'm
love
saying?
that. I can't wait to go. Well, we will be getting together soon because we do have a trip coming up the end of this month.
Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? Tell
We
them.
will be at the Sacred Space Festival doing a meditation ritual workshop for people. So very excited about that.
I happened to see on the Facebook that we have some listeners that are going to be there too.
This is going to be very cool because I already heard of a couple people that are coming. Now it's going to be like a party. We're going to have a meet and greet at some point.
So, for all of our listeners that are planning on going to Sacred Space at the end of March, please know we are on the calendar for Thursday night.
Hit us up on our Facebook. Send me a DM on Facebook or on our Instagram. Maybe we will schedule a meetup. We should have, go out for drinks or tea or something with our
Ooh,
listeners.
that
That'd
would
be
be
cool, right?
fun.
Yeah, we'll think of something. But I think that is it for our episode today. Thank you all so much for listening to Back on the Broomstick. We have lots of things coming up for you this month.
If you need to know anything else that we haven't covered about Salem, shoot us a message. I'll try to give you my best go at answering.
We get emails all the time about people asking our favorite places. We're more than happy to give you that information, send it on. And of course, we are not currently. In the future, you never know, but we are not sponsored by anyone in Salem,
I'm
although
just telling you the
we'd be
places I
happy.
love because I love them. Like
That's right.
nobody's telling me to tell you that. I either love them or hate them, and I'll be honest with you. So ask.
Yep, we're just going to tell you what we like and what we don't like, just out of the goodness of our witchy little hearts. But thank you all again for listening. We will see you next week. If you would like to visit us in between episodes, check out our website, backonthebroomstick.com, our YouTube channel, our Facebook group, the Back on the Broomstick Facebook discussion board group, Back on the Broomstick Facebook. Oh, crap.
You'll find it. You'll find it, people. Just search.
Run by the beloved, wonderful, witchy, fabulous, magical Helen Jojo, who is amazing. Shout out to Helen.
Love you, Helen Jojo.
And I just recently found out we have a subreddit dedicated to Back on the Broomstick.
That blows
Who
my
knew?
mind.
But yeah, check us out online. We are happy to send you messages. We are a little behind on our emails, but we're catching up.
And my last two things I got to tell you, book your trip to Salem and keep it witchy, folks.